Have you ever just, stopped and wondered why some big government plans seem to, well, sometimes fall a bit flat,
Hmm.
while at the same time you've got millions of people making their own decisions, and somehow it all meshes together into this huge, complex economy?
It's a fascinating contrast, isn't it? Or even think smaller scale why you decide to splurge on, say, concert tickets instead of saving that money.
Exactly. We're making choices constantly, big ones, small ones, and often the real logic, the why behind it all, feels hidden somehow.
It does. And that underlying structure, the purpose behind our actions, is actually far more intricate than we usually realize. That's really what we're digging into today.
Right. So today's deep dive is into some really core ideas from human action, which is this foundational work exploring how we act and interact. Our mission, basically, is to pull out the key insights on what drives us, how we value things.
And the role markets and, crucially, uncertainty play in are pretty much everything we do.
Yeah, we want to give you a shortcut to understanding some powerful concepts about human nature and society.
We'll be hitting on human action itself, this thing called praxeology, methodological individualism, subjective value, which is huge uncertainty, and economic calculation.
Sounds like a lot, but hopefully it'll lead to some real aha moments about how the world ticks.
I think it will. These ideas really do offer a different lens.
Okay, let's jump in. Human action. What does that mean in this context? Because it sounds like more than just, reacting to something, like pulling your hand off a hot stove.
That's the key difference, absolutely. Human action here means purposeful behavior. It's about consciously aiming for certain goals, certain chosen ends.
Purposeful, okay.
And it's always driven, fundamentally, by trying to get relief from a felt uneasiness. Think about it. Every conscious choice, from buying a house to just shifting in your chair, is aimed at reaching a state you prefer over your current one.
Moving away from discomfort, however small, towards something better. So it's not automatic, like a reflex.
Exactly. It's conscious decision-making. And that's why the source argues that trying to apply methods from, say, physics or old-school behaviorism to humans doesn't really work.
Right, the billiard ball analogy fails. Why is that? Why can't we just study humans like objects reacting to forces?
Because the things that influence us, the stimuli, they are not open to description by the methods of the natural sciences. Those methods miss the crucial part, the meaning which acting men attach to them.
The intention.
Precisely. You can watch someone sign a paper, right? Physics can describe the pen moving, the ink flow. But it can't tell you if it's $1 billion deal, a confession, or just an autograph. The meaning, the purpose, is internal to the actor.
That makes total sense. You see the action, but not the why. Okay, so if action is driven by internal meaning and purpose, how do we study that? This brings us to praxeology. What is that exactly?
Praxeology is presented as the science specifically designed to study the form and structure of human action itself. This pure form and its categorical structure, as the text puts it.
The form of action.
Okay. And what's really distinct is that it's described as an a prioristic science.
A prioristic, meaning?
Meaning its core principles, like the very idea that action is purposeful, aren't derived from experiments or historical data. They're seen as logically necessary truths you arrive at by just thinking about what action is, like logical deduction.
Okay. So it's like geometry or logic. The basic axioms are considered true by definition, and you build from there. They're proof against any criticisms, as the source says.
Exactly. The claim is you don't need to run an experiment to prove that humans act purposefully. It's inherent in the concept of action itself.
So the big takeaway isn't about predicting what someone will do, necessarily.
No, not specific predictions. It's about understanding the underlying logic of choice. The aha moment is recognizing that certain truths about how we choose are universal. If someone acts, a priori, they're trying to improve their situation from their own perspective.
That's a powerful baseline. And the source mentions praxeology as human in a double sense. What's that about?
Yeah, interesting phrase. It means, first, its principles are claimed to have universal validity for all human action. They apply to everyone, everywhere.
Okay.
And second, it deals only with human action. It's not trying to explain animal behavior or hypothetical superhuman actions. It's specifically about us.
Got it. Universal to humans and only about humans.
Okay.
Okay, so praxeology focuses on the logic of individual action. How does this connect to methodological individualism? Does that just mean society doesn't matter?
Not that it doesn't matter, but that the individual is the starting point. Methodological individualism means that the science of human action deals with the actions of individual men.
Right.
So things we see at the societal level, cooperation, markets, institutions, are understood as emerging from individual actions. They're a special case of human action, not something separate. Society isn't seen as some entity with its own brain or goals.
So society is a product of human action, built from the ground up by individuals and their ideas. That definitely shifts the focus away from treating society as a monolithic thing.
It does. It emphasizes that collective outcomes arise from individual choices interacting.
Okay, if it all starts with individuals, how do those individuals decide what's valuable? Because clearly, value isn't like temperature, something objective you can just measure.
Exactly right. And that leads us straight into subjective valuation. The core idea is that value judgments are inherently personal, subjective, and crucially, non-arithmetical. You can't just add them up.
Non-arithmetical, meaning you can't say this is worth 5 units of value and that's worth 10.
Precisely. Value isn't measured, it's ranked. And these rankings are only revealed in acting and through acting. It's the choice itself, giving up X to get Y, that demonstrates your preference at that moment.
So my intense dislike for, I don't know, licorice isn't objectively wrong, it's just my subjective ranking. Okay, I can live with that. How does marginal utility fit in? Can you give us an example?
Sure. Marginal utility sounds technical, but it's really intuitive. Imagine someone has, say, 5 units of commodity, A, let's say bottles of water, and 3 units of commodity B, maybe slices of bread. They don't value water in general, or bread in general. They value specific uses. The first bottle of water might be for immediate thirst, highest rank, say 1. The second for cooking, rank 2. The third for washing hands, rank 4. Maybe the first slice of bread is for now, rank 3. The second for later, rank 5. And the third, maybe for feeding birds, rank 6.
So they're ranking the uses of each individual unit.
Exactly. Now, if they have to give up 1 bottle of water, they don't think about the total value of all their water. They think about the marginal value, the value of the least important use they currently have for 1 bottle.
Ah, so in that example, giving up 1 bottle means giving up washing hands, maybe? Not the drinking water.
Right. They sacrifice the least important end the bottle satisfies. The value is determined at the margin by the specific unit being gained or lost. It's always about definite quantities of means and the specific satisfaction they provide.
That makes choices seem much more concrete. It's not about the total stock, but about this unit right now. Very practical.
And dynamic, too. If they lose a bottle, the marginal value of the remaining bottles might go up because the least important use is now more critical.
Okay, so we act purposefully based on subjective values ranked at the margin. But life isn't that neat, is it? We're always facing the unknown. How does uncertainty factor into this picture of human action?
It's absolutely central. The theory stresses that human action always happens looking towards an uncertain future. Our knowledge about what's coming is deficient.
Deficient, not just imperfect, but fundamentally lacking.
Right. We might know our goals, our means, maybe our motivations, but our knowledge is defective. We simply cannot exclude beforehand the possibility that we have erred or that something totally unforeseen will pop up. We're always acting with incomplete information about the consequences.
So how do we even cope? How do we reason about this uncertain future? The source distinguishes between different kinds of probability, right?
Yes, a key distinction is made between class probability and understanding. Class probability is the statistical kind. Think insurance, dice rolls, where we pretend to know everything about the behavior of the whole class of events. You know the odds because you know all possible outcomes.
Like flipping a coin 50-50 heads or tails over many flips.
Exactly. But most important, human situations aren't like that. Your decision to start a business or choose a career or even predict a specific historical outcome, these are unique events. You can't put them in a neat statistical class.
Right. You can't calculate the odds of your specific business succeeding like you can a dice roll.
Precisely. That's where understanding comes in. It's described as this peculiar mode of reasoning we use for unique individual situations. It involves intuition, judgment, empathy, trying to grasp the specific factors at play in a one-off event. It's inherently fuzzier than statistics because the future is unique.
So it's less calculation, more informed judgment about a specific, unrepeatable context.
You can put it that way. And because the future is uncertain and our tool is this imperfect understanding, it means speculation is inherent in every action.
Speculation isn't just for Wall Street, then?
Not at all. Every time you make a choice with future consequences, which is basically every action, you're speculating about the outcome. And because of that, profit and loss are necessary features of acting. You might guess right. profit, broadly speaking, or guess wrong, loss.
And entrepreneurs are basically professional speculators in this sense.
In a very real sense, yes. They do not let himself be guided by what was and is, but arranges his affairs on the ground of his opinion about the future. They rely on this specific anticipative understanding, which, the source notes, defies any rules and systemization. It's more art than pure science.
That paints a very different picture of entrepreneurship, not just managing resources, but fundamentally about judging an unknown future. Okay, this leads us to the last big piece, economic calculation. Why is this called the fundamental issue?
Because, in a world beyond simple Crusoe economics, with specialized labor and complex production, calculation is what makes rational action possible on a large scale. It's the compass, so to speak.
Go so.
Think about building anything complex, a car, a smartphone, running a hospital. You need to compare the costs of countless different inputs, materials, labor, time, energy. How do you decide whether to use steel or aluminum, this machine or that process? You need a common denominator to compare vastly different things.
And that common denominator is money, facilitated by the market.
Exactly. The source is clear. Market exchange and monetary calculation are inseparably linked together. While we can imagine barter, direct exchange, it's called an imaginary construction for complex economies.
Why imaginary? People did barter.
They did, in simple settings. But try running a modern economy on barter. How many iPhones does a jet engine cost? How many hours of brain surgery buys you a ton of concrete? It's impossible. Money acts as that universal medium of exchange, allowing us to express all these different costs and potential revenues in comparable units. Without it, complex economic calculation is not possible.
So money isn't just convenient, it's the information system that allows complex planning and resource allocation. It enables rationality on a societal scale.
Precisely. It allows us to figure out if a particular way of doing things is actually creating value or just wasting resources.
Okay, but what happens if that information system gets distorted? This source talks about government interference, like printing money or controlling prices.
Right. Actions like endeavors to expand the quantity of money in circulation, inflation, or setting price controls are described as things that disintegrate all currency matters and derange economic calculation.
Derange calculation? That sounds serious.
It means the signals get scrambled. If prices are constantly changing due to inflation or held artificially low or high by controls, businesses and individuals can't tell what's really scarce, what's really in demand, what projects are truly profitable versus ones that just look profitable because of distorted money.
So you might build something nobody actually wants or fail to produce something desperately needed because the price signals are wrong.
Exactly. It leads to malinvestment, putting resources in the wrong places, and overconsumption, using up capital faster than it's replaced. The argument is that severe enough distortion can even lead to a breakdown of the monetary system. The point isn't that calculation needs to be perfectly precise, it never is, but that you need a functioning monetary system for any meaningful calculation.
That's a stark warning. It suggests that messing with the monetary foundations can wreck the ability to plan rationally throughout the entire economy.
That's the core argument, yes.
And this all seems to culminate in a really fundamental question about planning itself.
Indeed. The source poses it like this. The alternative is not plan or no plan. The question is who's planning.
Ah, so it's not about whether planning happens, but who does the planning.
Right. Is it the autonomous action of each individual making their own plans based on market signals and subjective values? Or is it the exclusive action of the government, directing resources from the top down? The book frames this ultimate choice as freedom versus government omnipotence.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this all up. What we've explored today suggests that human action is fundamentally purposeful.
Driven by individuals trying to improve their situation based on their own subjective values.
Always operating with incomplete knowledge in an uncertain future.
And relying on economic calculation, made possible by money and markets, to act rationally on a larger scale.
It really provides a framework for thinking about, well, almost everything involving human choice and interaction.
It does. Understanding these core concepts, purposeful action, subjective value, uncertainty, calculation, can really illuminate why things happen the way they do, from your own personal choices to big societal trends.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. Next time you make a decision, even a small one, think about it through this lens. You're aiming to relieve some uneasiness, you're ranking subjective values, you're navigating uncertainty, maybe even implicitly relying on monetary calculation. How does seeing the invisible logic of human action change how you view your own choices and the world around you?